මහිමා ගීතයේ පරිසමාප්‍රාප්තියෙන්ම මෙම සංවිධානය පිළිබඳව සමස්තය කැටිකොට දැක්වූ ආකාරය ඉතාමත් විශිෂ්ටයි. ඒ අනුසාරයෙන් වසර 2023 මැයි මාසයේදී ඔස්ට්‍රියාවේ වියනා නුවර ප්‍රථම මෙම සැසිවාරය ආරම්භ කොට අද අප දේශයේ ශ්‍රී ලාංකීය මව්බිමේ මෙම දෙවන සැසිවාරය ක්‍රියාත්මක වන මොහොත. එමනම් අපි වැඩසටහනේ මීළඟ අදිරයට යන්න මත්තෙන් අපි සංස්කෘතික අංගයකට යොමු වෙමු. රාජ්‍ය නැටුම් කණ්ඩායම සංස්කෘතික කටයුතු දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව හරහා මෙන්න මෙම නැටුම් සංදර්ශනය ඔබට ඉදිරිපත් කිරීමටයි සූදානම. Let's witness a cultural dance performance by the state dance troupe. මනරම් සංස්කෘතික රංගනයක් ඉදිරිපත් කළේ රාජ්‍ය නැටුම් කණ්ඩායම මීළඟට අපි යොමු වෙනවා අද දවසේ අපි මේ රැස් වී සිටින ශාලාවේ මුඛ්‍ය කාරණය පිළිබඳව අදහසක් දැන ගැනීමටත් පැමිණ සිටි ඔබ තුමුන්නාන්සේලා ඉතාමත් සාදරයෙන් පිළිගැනීමටත් මීළඟ අවස්ථාව අපි උදා කරගන්නවා ගෞරවයෙන් ආරාධනා කරනවා පිළිගැනීමේ කතාවසා රැස් වීම අරමුණු පැහැදිලි කිරීම සඳහා ඔස්ට්‍රේලියානු බෞද්ධ සංගමයේ අනුශාසක ව්‍යානා ඥානපෝනික බෞද්ධ මධ්‍යස්ථානාධිපති හම්බර්ග් බෞද්ධ සංගමයේ අනුශාසක ව්‍යානා විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයේ හිටපු කතිකාචාර්ය ශ්‍රී නාග විහාරවෙන් විහාරාධිපති යුරෝපා මහද්වීපයේ ධර්මදූත සංඝනායක यूरोपीय श्रीलंकिक भिक्षु संघ में गरु सभापति आचार्य विजय राजपुर सीलवंश नायक स्वामींद्रन वहांसेट Up next, to deliver the welcome speech and the explanation of objective of this convention, we respectfully invite the chief patron of the Australian Buddhist Society, proprietor of the Nana Portica Buddhist Center in Hamburg, former lecturer at Vienna University, chief incumbent of Sri Naga Pinivena, leaders of the Dharmadutta Society in the European continent, chairperson of the Sri Lankan Bhikkhu Association in Europe, Venerable Dr. Vijay Rajapura Srivansa Nayakathero.
The Most Honorable Mahasangha, Honorable Minister of Justice, Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, Honorable Minister of Buddha Sasana, Vidura Vikramanayaka, the Minister of Indigenous, Mr. Sisira Jayakodi, Honorable State Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Tharak Balasuriya, Excellencies, government officers, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends in Dhamma. I am very happy to welcome you today on behalf of the Sri Lanka Bhikkhu Association in Europe. Especially, I am very happy that the Austrian ambassador from India is visiting our conference. It is, for me personally, the honor. I thank you. The Sri Lanka Bhikkhu Association was formed in Vienna, in Austria, in May 2023 with the Buddhist monks living in Europe. Although we formed this association in 2023 for the first time, we had realized the need for such association since several years. At present, we have the members of about 50 temples from various parts of Europe. We hope the Buddhist centers and temples in United Kingdom also will become members of the association soon. When I went to Austria in 1982, there were only very few Buddhist temples in European continent. The oldest temple, Buddhist temple in Europe is Das Buddhistische Haus in Frohnau, Berlin in Germany. It was established in 1924. Now it's almost 100 years old. The International Buddhist Center in Paris, which was started by Venerable Paravahara Panyaratana Thero, is also recently established Buddhist center in Europe. Parallel to this period, the Nyanaponika Buddhist Center was established in Vienna, Austria. In the following period, many Buddhist centers were established in Italy, Germany, Switzerland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Greece, and Cyprus. The European Sri Lanka Buddhist Association is working towards establishing Buddhist centers in Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, and Romania too. The centers in Germany and Austria are working specially, giving priority for religious, spiritual development of the people of those countries. In 1983, marking a special turning point in European religious history, for the first time, the Austrian government declared Buddhism as a government approval practicing religion in the country. It was a revolutionary event. At the present, the Austrian Buddhist Association is one of the strongest Buddhist associations in the world. Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana, and all Buddhist traditions and spiritual programs are undertaken in the same umbrella association. The Sri Lankan monks in Europe are a group of people who serve without expecting any rewards. Communities living in these countries, especially Sri Lankan communities, fulfill the needs of the monks. Europe underwent 2 world wars, but within a short time, they achieved stability, a great growth, and economic prosperity. Today, Europeans are very strong in education, health, transport, and other public needs and economy. Even if it is expensive, they have managed their lifestyle well. Public administration is optimistic and well done. At present, Europeans are strong in materialistic life, but one of the challenges they face is to attain the spiritual development parallel to physical growth. The concept of myself and mine has been strengthened, and this sometimes hinder in collective engagements. There are sometimes individuals who are lost or isolated in materialistic resources. As the material life objectives are the priority, they go through a lot of stress in life. These individuals who are isolated with the concept I or myself attempt to solve all issues by themselves. Then their minds are stressed. This may be a root cause of mental disorders like dementia, which is seen, unfortunately, everywhere in Europe, now Europe. Philosophers, scholars, Arthur Schopenhauer Friedrich Nietzsche, Immanuel Kant enriched their vision through Buddhism. Through these philosophical streams, Europeans started to research on Buddhism. A great work born in the world of literature, Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, made a revolution in literary history of Europe. Many were inclined towards Buddhism after reading this work. Sati, or mindfulness or awareness, which is taught in Buddhism, has made changes in European thinking. Today, Buddhist concepts have permeated in the Western world in many aspects of life, in medical treatments, hospitals, social institutions, schools, in various economic activities, environmental aspects, and psychiatric treatments. The Buddhist monks living in Europe is not in search of converts. It is not our job. We are not missionaries. Our duty is to nurture Europeans' way of living mind with the values of Buddhism and to teach them the way of communal living in peace, happiness, and harmony. Of course, Buddhist monks are unofficial ambassadors of foreign countries. We do not serve any state, and we are also not acting in any form to get privilege in our country from Europe. Our goal is to provide a valuable asset to the world, the principle of Buddha's teaching. European Sri Lanka Buddhist Association was established from the noble concept of not from the world to the country, but from the country to the world. That is our aim. I thank you again, all of you, and I wish you all the best. Sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta. May all beings be well and happy. Thank you.
Needless to mention any further explanation on the expectation and the objective of this particular mission. And it was mentioned the stressful modern lifestyle is really triggering to find new paths to overcome spiritual solutions, so which we have in our land, which we have in our mind. So we are privileged to have that. As the Venerable Monk Thero mentioned, it is not from the world we are trying to get something. It is from our country we are going to give to the world. Let's be firm in this aspect. Nilangata Nimita Patibene Europa Bhiksu Sangame Aramunha Paramarthi Pahadili Kirima Europe Bhiksu Sangamayak Bihivima Saha Ehi Aramuna Pahadili Kara Ganima Sandaha Api Nilangati Tamat Gauravi Naradana Karnwa Malaysia Ve Pradana Adhikarana Sanganahayaka Central Bauddha Vihara Adhipati Mahakaruna Padanimehi Nirmatru Europe Sri Lankika Bhikshu Sangame Sammananiya Samajika Pujipada Bhutavatte Saranankaranayaka Swami Ranvahanseta. Up next to give some ideas, particularly an explanation of the vision and the mission of Sri Lankan Bhikkhu Association in Europe, we respectfully invite Chief Adhikarana Sanganayak in Malaysia, Chief Incumbent of Central Buddhist Center, founder of Mahakaruna Buddhist Society, honorary member of the Sri Lanka Bhikkhu Association in Europe, Venerable Bodhivatte Saranankara Nayakathera.
Most respected members of Mahasangha, if I am going to mention the name, number of learned, respectable, senior Sangha members are being here is a great blessing. Not only Bhikkhu, even the Bhikkhunis. Respected the ministers, you are present here, you are giving this particular gathering recognition through the governments. Your Excellencies, you being here today, you're giving another wonderful encouragement to the European Bhikkhuni, Bhikkhu Sangha to work towards it. Each and every one of you present here, I personally believe it. I hope opportunity to continue wonderful services European Bhikkhu Sangha what he is doing. Last year I get opportunity to participate this particular gathering in Vienna. I think 50 to 60 Sangha members are living Bhikkhu and Bhikkhunis in Europe participate for that particular gathering. Your Excellencies, Sangha members, doing the wonderful contribution towards mankind, Asian, those who are migrate over there, as well as for the European Buddhists as well as for the non-Buddhists. Venerable President very rightfully mentioned, the second time I hear in that particular statement, number of occasions, especially Venerable Walpole Rahul mentioned. He was in so many years in Europe community and Western world. He mentioned very beautiful statement. He mentioned he never ever convert any single human being as a missionary monk. Then he mentioned it's some sort of way how pale is missionary. That's a Buddhist concept. That's a way Buddhist approach. That's another important, sharing that peaceful message towards mankind. That's our objective. Members Mahasangha in Europe, not that easy task what they are going through. The beginning, they couldn't understand the robe, the yellow robe, what they represent. Their great sacrifice done number of years. Even culture had to adapt into that. And also the climate changes. They're able to adapt each and every Sangha members with the great determination. The determination towards services towards mankind. I seen, Your Excellencies, with your great support, the beauty of European community. There is a great understanding, given equal rights for the peaceful religious practices to maintain each and every European community. certain part of the world, we doesn't have that freedom. But I really appreciate the Westerners. They have a very great open mind. Europa's Sangha community, I strongly believe it, able to bring that peaceful message to us, Europe, as well as for the other part of the world. Sangha members, we have to work towards it, this peaceful message. Of course, certain religious organization, each and every religious organization, we can see it wonderful, good people. As well as we can see some certain people misuse religious practices and belief. Most important things, I personally believe it, not the knowledge or what you are holding. Your practices are important. Each and every religious theory we had to put into the day-to-day practice. The practice make you perfect human being. Nothing else. Inner quality, the spirituality not belong to any religious property. Kindness, compassion, loving kindness, generosity. These are wonderful words. When you implement in day-to-day your own practices, make you better human being. Cultivation, purification, oneself mind, that's the greatest asset in our life. What exactly we are taking along to the next existence. We take along to the next existence, nothing else, the great development in the spirituality, as Venerable rightfully mentioned. Part of the whole Europe today turn into that spirituality. Sati is a huge marketing tool. Mindfulness is a huge marketing tool as well. From there we can see it. How wonderful, how great someone maintaining spiritual practices in day-to-day life. You're able to feel it, such a development within your own self. That's a mental strength. You never ever able to let you down. Then bringing a lot of joy, the happiness, great satisfaction while you're living in this world. The same thing you're able to take along to the next existence, exactly like your own shadow. It doesn't bring any misery. Follow you behind where you go. The same thing. What you cultivate, what you purification, that is strongly that principle believing each and every Sangha members as well as for the spiritual practitioners. I seen my personally when I was in that particular conference, how hard they have worked towards it. Even though that difficulties are there, but the determination towards mankind is great, wonderful. Your Excellency, your support, your compassion is required for the development is such a wonderful thing to continue for the European Sangha community. It will go further and further at a greatest achievement. Your Honorable Ministers, in the locally, you have to support as well, especially in the Buddha Sasana. It's a great services what you are doing. You require your kindness, your support, your encouragement. I heard just earlier one occasion the ministry involving for the young Sangha members to give the path to work this particular that skill, language, knowledge. That's a great contribution. That's a great wonderful things. Europa Sangha community working towards that particular object to achieve it, their main objective, main aim to bring the peaceful message to us, all Europe community, with their self practices, as well as for the encourage of the lay followers to follow this peaceful message practices. Brothers and sisters, we should not take much time, each and every one of you being here, the giving, see the wonderful people around whole the Sangha members, Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Upasak, Upasika, being here, present here, each and every one of you at this particular moment, nothing else, wholesome, peaceful, good thought, your metta, your loving kindness, your compassionate thought is an encouragement Sangha members to work towards this noble project. As a young Sangha members, as well as for the getting blessing from the senior Sangha, to continue such wonderful things you require. Europa Sangha community, join hand with the local Sangha members to this peaceful message to reach to the many more members or many more people to reach it. Our each and every senior, intellectual, highly educated Sangha members, your blessing require Sangha, young Sangha members to continue this work. I've seen young Sangha members in Europe as well as for the Western country, even US and Canada. Some Sangha members have been here to give the necessary blessing for you to continue. I strongly believe it, each and every one of your kindness, each and every one of your compassion, each and every one of your good thought to develop this unity, develop this organization to do the better services towards mankind. Ministers, as well as your excellencies, your support to require further and further, many more years to come to do such a wonderful thing to continue. Each and every one of you are being here, present here, what is exactly we require. Inner mental strength is important. Nothing else we can able to take along to the next assistant. Your share certificate, your investment, you have remaining here. You can't take alone. There's not bringing any satisfaction or any happiness when we are physically or mentally when we are down, when we are in the hospital bed. Your share market not going to help you. Your investment not going to help you. Other on the position not going to help you as well. Only thing you can take alone. Why we living in this period? Whatever cultivation, whatever purification in your own mind, that help you when we are in the hospital bed. That's the greatest healing process. Today Western world realize that important thing is spirituality. That's where the Sangha members are being there, their contribution towards reach that the greatest generosity dana to practice. With that kind words, just to develop such a peaceful good thought each and every one of you. And we say as well, but the great investment in your own mind. You invest for various part of the place. Sometimes you have to look at to invest your own self for next existence. Next existence investment very simple. Do something good. Purify your own mind. Get the greatest mental strength that take you to the highest level. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Well, up next, we are here to invite, on behalf of the chief guest today, yes, gracing at this occasion, Honorable Minister of Justice, Prison and Constitutional Reforms, Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, to address the gathering. Karwadhikarana Bandhanagara Anukrama Prati Sanskana Garvamadhya Vijayadasa Rajapaksa Mathman Obama Thanamati.
The most venerable members of the Buddhist clergy, venerable bhikkhunis, honorable ministers, members of parliament, your excellencies, dear friends, although I did not expect to make a speech today, I believe that it's my duty to add my blessings, wishes and greetings to the success of every endeavor to be made by the Sri Lankan Monks Bhikkhus Association in Europe. We being Sri Lankan, not only our Buddhist monks, even lay people like us, we are very proud. That is because the Buddhism is protected, Buddhism is preserved, Buddhism is propagated because of Sri Lankan Buddhist monks. If not for the Buddhist monks who inscripted the Buddhism over 2000 years ago in Aluvihara temple in Matale district, that was during that Baminitiya Saya, another pandemic. Our Buddhist monks, especially Arahant monks, got together and they inscripted the Tripitaka canon, which is the main teaching that the whole world is following as Buddhism. The Tripitaka canon, which was written in Pali at that time, is being followed by all Theravada Buddhist countries. Later on, they translated or converted that into Sanskrit by Mahayana countries and other countries. But in essence, the core value is the same. The Buddhism is disseminated to the world at 3 stages. The 2 stages that was in Mahabharata, in India and the Asian region. The Buddha's first advice to first 60 Arahant, which says, Charata bhikkhave charikam bahujana hitaya bahujana sukhaya, which means the Buddha admonished the first 60 Arahants, you must go and preach for the betterment and well-being, masses of the people, not only for the people, for the benefit of the goats. The Buddha realized the value of the human life, the capacity of the human life at a time where the whole world was believing that human beings are slaves of some gods. That is the biggest revolution that took place in the world. Buddha and his disciples, walking all around in India for a period of 45 years, taught what the Buddha had preached to them and established the Buddhism in India. Thereafter, at the second stage, 230 years later, during the period of Emperor Asoka, who held the third Dhamma Council, decided to disseminate the Buddhism to all the other countries in the Asian region, and the first priority was given to Sri Lanka. As a result, that his own son, Arahant Mahinda, was sent to Sri Lanka for the establishment of the Buddhism. Although there are many countries in Asia, the Sri Lanka is the only country blessed with the visit of the Buddha not once, thrice. With that one, there had been 9 countries which had embraced the Buddhism and all became countries where the people were practicing Buddhism. But the third stage, the dissemination of the Buddhism, commenced from Sri Lanka. This is a story, successful story, unfolding, commencing from Panaduravadaya in 1875. At a time, there had been many suppression and oppression against the Buddhism. The Panaduravadaya emerged as a debate by teaching the whole world the value of the Buddhism. Henry Olcott, Colonel Henry Olcott, a great leader who did not believe in any religion in the world, heard the news of the debate that was conducted in Panadura. He came to Sri Lanka with Princess Blavatsky, not in search of any wealth, as the other invaders came in searching tusks, spices, cinnamon, gems. He came here in search of the meaning of the Buddhism, the value of the Buddha's teaching. After realizing, he embraced Buddhism, and Buddhist revitalization started together with its embracement or becoming a Buddhist follower in 1883. As a result, in Sri Lanka, they started many Buddhist schools. Gol Mahinda College, Colombo Ananda College, Dharmaraja College in Kandy are the three Buddhist schools which started by Colonel Olcott, which was later followed by many Buddhist philanthropists in Sri Lanka. The most valuable product of that, Panaduravadaya, as well as the visit of Henry Olcott, is none other than Anagarika Dharmapala, who became a Buddhist monk at his late stage of the life. If not for Anagarika Dharmapala, people do not know what is Buddha Gaya, where is Buddha Gaya. People would have never got a chance at least to have access to Buddha Gaya. He litigated a decade with some parties in India and finally ensured that the Buddhist people, Buddhist devotees living in all over the world will have the opportunity to come and worship Buddha Gaya. Anagarika Dharmapala is the one who took the Buddhism to Europe. We know that there are several thousands of Buddhist temples in Europe and USA, but the first temple was started International Buddhist Center in London by Anagarika Dharmapala. As a result, now the Buddhism has been disseminated and propagated in every part of the world. I am happy to note that the Sri Lankan Buddhist monks have started their own organization, Sri Lanka Bhikkhus organization in Europe, for the well-being and the betterment of people living all over the world, irrespective of their faith or their religion. Buddhism in its strict sense is not as religion like in any other religion. Whether there was a Buddha or not, the cause and effect, the reality in the world, the Hetupalavada, that continues. What did was that he searched guidance of any teacher and preached to the world. In this regard, I said that Sri Lankan Buddhist monks and the Buddhist community have rendered a yeoman's service to the world. In 1950, when World Buddhist Forum was conducted in Kandy, its chairman at that time, Professor G.P. Malalasekara, he moved a resolution that the Buddhism should be recognized and celebrated as a world religion by the United Nations. As a result, in 1999, the most respected Sri Lankan Foreign Minister, late Lakshman Kadiragama, moved a resolution in the United Nations that the Vesak must be celebrated as a day of UN Vesak celebration. That is the proposal adopted by the United Nations in 2001. Since then, in every year that we are celebrating, we had the opportunity to have that celebration in Sri Lanka, the 14th United Nations Vesak Day celebration and conference in Colombo in 2017, with the participation of delegates from 74 countries, which means the biggest and the largest ever. The Buddhist conference we held in Sri Lanka in the main hall of this premises, BMICH, on the Vesak Day of 2017, with the participation of His Excellency Narendra Modi, Indian Prime Minister, as the chief guest of the opening ceremony, and the President of Nepal as the chief guest of the winding up ceremony in Kandy. While we were holding that conference, you may recall, I asked the Minister of Buddha Sasana at that time, I moved a resolution to adopt the Kandian Declaration. It was unanimously adopted in Kandy Mahamaluwa of Sri Dalada Temple, which says the center of the Buddhism for the world is Sri Lanka. And therefore, the burden cast upon the shoulders of our Buddhist monks, commencing from Most Venerable Mahanayakas to Samanera Thero, is much greater. It's a duty, it's an obligation to disseminate the core values of Buddhism for the benefit of the whole world. I am so proud to take part in these proceedings. What we initiated in 2017, now it's becoming a reality, whereas our most venerable Buddhist monks have already formed an association as Sri Lankan Bhikkhus Association in Europe. In time to come, I know in every other region of the world, there will be more and more such Bhikkhu association. Everybody has to be happy because none of our Buddhist monk render any service with the expectation of anything in return. That is Buddhism. In every teaching, whenever you render a service, you expect something in return, which is not in Buddhism. Therefore, I wish, with the blessings of the Triple Gem, that every endeavor where this Sri Lankan Buddhist Association Europe are going to launch will be success. And I wish all of you blessings of the Triple Gem may profusely shower upon you. Thank you very much.
Well, up next, it's not only the monks, it's not only the ruling personalities, it is not only the rest of the important personalities living in Sri Lanka, but the ordinary layman can still have the responsibility of taking this Buddhism's message to the world. So in our land, it is seriously concerned in form of artistic creations. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to listen a song that is created for this aspect. The theme of the song, Gayanawata Kalayai, is conducted by Visharada Deepika Priyadasini Peres. Milangata අපි සවන් දෙමු විශාරද දීපිකා ප්‍රදර්ශන පීරිස් මහත්මිය විසින් ගායනා කරන ලද සංගායනාවට කාලයයි ගීතයට.
That obviously a great round of applause. That really emanates from our heart just to pay our tribute in that form. Thank you very much once again. Meelangata, අපි සූදානම් වන්නේ භාවනාවක් ඉෂ්ට සිද්ධ කර ගැනීමටයි. ඒ ඉෂ්ට සිද්ධ කර ගන්නට මා ඉතාමත් ගෞරවයෙන් ආරාධනා කර සිටිනවා ජර්මනියේ හැම්බර්ග් ශ්‍රී ලංකාරාමයේ නිර්මාතෘ ජර්මනියේ මෙයින්ස් ගුටෙන්බර්ග් විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයේ කතිකාචාර්ය ජර්මනියේ ප්‍රධාන අධිකරණ සංඝනායක යුරෝපීය ශ්‍රී ලාංකික භික්ෂු සංගමයේ ගරු විධායක සභික පූජ්‍ය රත්මලේ පුඤ්ඤරතන නායක ස්වාමින් වහන්සේට. Up next, with respectfully, I call upon to conduct the meditation segment at this occasion, the chief incumbent of Sri Lanka Rame at Hamburg, Germany, lecturer of the Mainz Gutenberg University in Germany, chief Adhikarana Sanghanayaka in Germany, executive member of Sri Lanka Bhikkhu Association in Europe, Venerable Ratmale Punaratana Thero.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. The venerables, the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends, I am in great pleasure to spend a little time in this August conference to conduct the mindfulness practice. First of all, having comfortable seat, and this occasion you had better blink your eyes, as well as image a smiling on your lips. Then only you will feel relax on the muscles of your face. Please do avoid all internal and external episode in the past and also future planning. Let us concentrate the feeling and impression at the present moment. Then you will hear various kind of sounds you never heard in your life. Eventually, you will hear beating of heart and also inhalation and exhalation. It means that you are frankly living. Now you are realize that mindfulness brings us multi-purpose happiness and great peace in our lives. It is not easy to attain in pre. We should train our mind. Due to human being, it is very important get a rest of their lives every moment that we gain. Now I propose all of you to practice mindfulness in a short while. Please do pay your kind attention your normal breathing. Your inhalation begin from your nose, will reach through the lungs up to the abdomen. After the exhalation, break out from the abdomen and slowly flow through the lungs and pass out through the nose. So let us concentrate a few minutes about our natural breathing. Inhalation, exhalation, in, out, in, out. Thank you very much for your kind attention and practicing together. I wish you all that the peace and happiness that you reach now exist forever. Sabbe satta bhavantu sukhi tatta. May all beings be happy and well. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
යුරෝපයේ ශ්‍රී ලාංකික භික්ෂු සංගමයේ දෙවන සැසිවාරය මේ අයුරින් ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙද්දී අපි මීළඟට අවතීර්ණ වෙන්නේ සුවිශේෂයෙන් අද ශිෂ්‍යත්ව පිරිනැමීම පිළිබඳ කර්තව්‍යයට ඒ වගේම ත්‍යාග පිරිනැමීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් සිදු කොට ලබන කටයුතු ඒ වගේම මෙම සංගමයේ සමාජිකත්වය ගෞරවනීය සමාජිකත්වය ලබා දීමේ කටයුතු යන ආදේශ සිදු කර ගැනීමටයි අපි සූදානම් වන්නේ. ඒ අනුසාරයෙන් අපි යුරෝපයේ ශ්‍රී ලාංකික භික්ෂු සංගමය මගින් පිරිවෙන් අධ්‍යාපනය ලබන සාමණේර භික්ෂුන් වහන්සේලා උදෙසා මාසිකව ප්‍රදානය කරනු ලබන සාමණේර සිසු දිරිය ශිෂ්‍යත්වය පිළිබඳව කටයුතු කිරීමටයි සූදානම් වන්නේ. විශේෂයෙන් යුරෝපයේ ශ්‍රී ලාංකික භික්ෂු සංගමය මගින් පිරිවෙන් අධ්‍යාපනය ලබන සාමණේර භික්ෂුන් වහන්සේලා උදෙසා මාසික ප්‍රදානය කරනු ලබන සාමණේර සිසු දිරිය වැඩසටහන පෙරදරි කරගෙන අද දින සංකේතාත්මක වශයෙන් ශිෂ්‍යත්ව කිහිපයක් පිරිනමන අතර පෙබරවාරි මාස 26 වෙනි දින ශිෂ්‍ය භික්ෂුන් වහන්සේලා 55 නමක් උදෙසා ශිෂ්‍යත්ව පිරිනැමීමේ කටයුතු කිරීමට කටයුතු කොට තිබෙනවා. එම සම්මතීකරණය ඌව පළාත් නියෝජ්‍ය අධ්‍යාපන අධ්‍යක්ෂ මාපකඩ සෝමරත්න හිමියන් විසින් සිදු කිරීමට නියමිතයි. ඒ වගේම ශිෂ්‍ය පොඩි හාමුදුරුවන් තම ගුරුදේවයන් වහන්සේ වන කන්දේ උඩපංගුවේ සුගතානන්ද හිමියන් සමග වැඩම කර සිටින අතර ශිෂ්‍ය පොඩි හාමුදුරුවන් වහන්සේලා මූලික කරගෙන අද දවසේ බදුළුවෙල විජිතානන්ද පොඩි හාමුදුරුවන් වහන්සේට මේ ප්‍රදානය කිරීමට සූදානම්. ඒ කටයුත්ත ඉෂ්ට සිද්ධ කිරීම සඳහා අපි තා ගෞරවයෙන් ආරාධනා කර සිටිනවා මේ ස්ථානයට පැමිණ සිටින දේශීය වෛද්‍ය රාජ්‍ය අමාත්‍ය සමාපන්න ඒ සඳහා අපි ගෞරවයෙන් ආරාධනා කර සිටිනවා විදේශ කටයුතු නියෝජ්‍ය ඇමති තාරක බාලසූරිය මැතිතුමා. ගරු විදේශ කටයුතු රාජ්‍ය අමාත්‍ය තුමන් අතින් මෙම කටයුතු සිදු කරන අයට අපි මේ දකින්නේ. Granting monthly scholarships for Samanera Sisu Divya for Firivela Navik monks in Sri Lanka is taking place at this occasion. මීළඟට අපි සූදානම් ගරු තාරක බාලසූරිය විදේශ කටයුතු නියෝජ්‍ය ඇමතිතුමන් මූලික කරගෙන මීළඟ ප්‍රදානයක් කිරීමට අපි සූදානම් වන්නේ යුරෝපීය ශ්‍රී ලාංකික භික්ෂු සංගමයේ ගරු විධායක සභික ජර්මනි ප්‍රධාන අධිකරණ සංඝනායක පූජ්‍ය රත්මලේ පුණ්‍යරත්න නායක හිමියන් වහන්සේ විසින් මෙහිණි අධ්‍යාපනය උදෙසා ප්‍රදාන කරනු ලබන ලක්ෂ 5ක මුල්‍ය ආධාරය මේ අයුරින් අපි ප්‍රදාන කිරීමටයි සූදානම් වන්නේ. විසඳහා ගම්පල හෝඩියාදෙණියේ මහාවායා මෙහිණි පිරිවෙනේ කෘත්‍යාධිකාරී කොත්මලේ සුභම්ම මහලා මෙහෙණින් වහන්සේ වෙත අපි ගෞරවයෙන් ආරාධනා කර සිටිනවා. Honorable Tharaka Balasuriya, State Minister for Foreign Affairs, is here to give away the monetary donation of amounting to 5 lakhs for the nuns education by Chief Incumbent of Sri Lankarami at Hamburg, Germany, lecturer of the Mainz Gutenberg University in Germany, Chief Adhikarana Sanghanayaka in Germany, Executive Member of Sri Lanka Bhikkhu Association in Europe, Venerable Ratmali Punyarathana Thero, and that particular grant was made at this occasion. Up next, we are here to give away the scholarships for students who have obtained A divisional passes in the GC ordinary level examination in 2023 by Australian Vienna Nanopedika Buddhist Society is offering this particular segment to the recipients, and to give away the prize, we cordially invite His Excellency, the Austrian Ambassador to Sri Lanka and India, Katerina Wieser. Please, Madam. විශේෂත්වය ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා සිසුන් 11 දෙනෙක් පමණ සිටින අතර විශේෂයෙන් හක්ෂබදනගේ Nisalni Niktara Karnaratna B.A. Himashik Kaumadi Balasuriya Dorapevithanake Jo Tejani Amanda Ganepola Arachige Enoki Indubura Ganepola Rashin Satru Gangodavilla Vikramarachige Disalagi Ben Vikramarachi K.A. Diniti Divyanjali Tamita Dunal Sriviratna Vikramarachi Ganepola Arachige Tamendia Anuttara Ganepola Chamidu Chaturanga Vikramatunga ඒ සියලු ශිෂ්‍ය ශිෂ්‍යදරුවන් වෙනුවෙන් අපි ආරාධනා කරනවා කේ රාශානි කෞශල්‍ය දියණියට එම සහතිකපත් ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා We extend our thanks to His Excellency, the ambassador to Austria, who greatly present at this occasion, Madam Visa, for giving away those grantings. මීළඟට නියමිතව තිබෙන්නේ මේ සභාව ආමන්ත්‍රණය කිරීම සඳහා අපි තාමත් ගෞරවයෙන් ආරාධනා කර සිටිනවා විදේශ නියෝජ්‍ය ඇමති තාරක බාලසූරිය මැතිතුමන්ට. Next we invite the State Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Tarek Balasuriya, to address the gathering.
Most Venerable monks of the clergy, Your Excellencies, dear invitees, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to address the Sri Lankan Bhiksu Association in Europe, and I think it's it's a timely event organized. In this regard, I feel that there's so much that we can do, both in terms of how the religion of Buddhism can be propagated in Europe. The first experience I understand that the Buddhism had with, or Europe had with Buddhism, was when Alexander the Great conquered part of what's now Pakistan and India in the 3rd century BC. And I think the influence of the Hellenistic architecture also can be seen if you visit some of the Gandhara and some of the ancient civilizations in Pakistan. You can see the statues of Buddha which have been created at that time are very much are similar to the statues that you find in the Greek culture. And also the most venerable monk of the European chapter, head of the European chapter, also spoke of the Buddhist influence in Europe, particularly in the Western philosophy. Schopenhauer and then also Friedrich Nietzsche was highly influenced by the Buddhist philosophy. But we must also be careful that Friedrich Nietzsche was particularly followed by a lot of people such as Hitler. So we must also be careful in the interpretation of the Buddhism. I think the biggest the void in Buddhism or in Europe, and where the Buddhism and the European thought can be expressed, is in spiritualism. If you look at Europe, and if you look at particularly countries such as Switzerland, if you look at countries such as the Scandinavian countries, we see that in every index they are well ahead of the rest of the countries. If you, as for the GDP per capita, if you look at the education systems, in every aspect they are well ahead of it. But nonetheless, countries such as Switzerland and the Scandinavian countries, you see a lot of people suffering from anxiety, a lot of people suffering from depression. So I feel that Buddhism is a very spiritual religion which can provide that the void which the Europeans are missing at this moment. So in this regard, I think the Buddhism can play a major role in bringing spirituality to people. For myself personally, I don't really. I would admit that I don't think I am a very religious person. I would say that openly. But I think I am very much a spiritual person, and I think the spirituality matters to everybody in this day and age, and particularly I think with what's happening in the world, the Buddhist philosophy is a very good fit. Now if you it's not that I'm trying to find any comparison with the other comparative religions, but the main essence of the Buddhism for me is that it doesn't give dominion over others. The Buddhism, everybody is equal. Even the animal which you find and a human, they are all equal. I think when the Arhat Mahinda Thera came to Sri Lanka, and when Arhat Mahinda Thera came to Sri Lanka, and King Tissa was about to kill the animal, the sermon was that the deer also has the same right to live as much as the king himself. So we see that in the present world, a world which we exploit our natural resources, we see that in the current world that we see the environmental catastrophes which are taking place, and most of the causes of these environmental catastrophes is the mindset of that the humans have, that we have dominion over others. I certainly don't believe in that, and we need to be a part and parcel of this the world, and move away from that concept. So I feel that certainly that we can not only bring something to take something to Europe, but also we can learn certain things from Europe and bring it to Sri Lanka. So it works both ways, and in this regard, I think the foreign ministry will do its utmost to propagate Buddhism, and also to propagate Sri Lanka's cultural beauty and the tendencies which we have. We had already started a program where we have an exchange program with particularly the Asian countries in sending the Sri Lankan Buddhist monks to different countries. We have already sent them to Korea, we have already sent them to Vietnam, and Indonesia, and I think 4 Buddhist monks are in Burma at currently, and we hope to send some to Singapore and to China, and to so perhaps the next step would be to work with the Sri Lankan Bhikkhu Association in Europe and see how we can send some of these monks to get the Western experience Western experience. And please, I hope the venerable monks will not misunderstand me when I say this, because when I meant that we can also learn something from Europeans is Europeans have the first world problems which the Sri Lankans don't have. The things such as anxieties, things such as depression are first world problem, but sooner or later, with economic development, we too will have the first world problems. And in that regard, I think we need to, when I mainly go to Buddhist sermons, I think most of the sermons are centered about compassion, particularly about this compassion towards your parents. But I think in no culture in the world says not to take care of your servants. I think we need to address some of the current problems which the modern complex world imposes on us, and how we can tackle these the more current complex problems through the concepts of Buddhism. So the great service, I think, which all the most venerable monks are carrying out in Europe is very well appreciated. And whatever the support from the foreign ministry perspective, we will be more than pleased to give it, to provide it to you. And we also see that new pockets of Sri Lankans in certain countries being created, particularly in countries like Romania. Now there are about 30,000, 40,000 Sri Lankans working in Romania. So I think there are certain areas that the Sri Lankan Bhikkhu Association in Europe can and should concentrate on, and any help or any assistance or any mechanism which the Sri Lankan Bhikkhu Association in Europe wants to formulate in order to spread Dhamma, the foreign ministry will be more than willing to work and share in your endeavors. Thank you.
As all was Honorable Tarak Bahasurya, the State Minister of Foreign Affairs, a ministry which deals with foreign countries. Yes, it has great responsibility in terms of helping this particular organization as well, I believe. Ladies and gentlemen, up next, we are here to hear the message of Honorable Prime Minister, who is really slated to be here, but unfortunately, with a tight schedule, and with the distant programs what he has today, he is not in a position to take part. So, to give away the message of Honorable Prime Minister of Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, we invite Vinod Munasinghe to deliver the message. Garu Agamatitumaage Subhasingshana Panividya Idripat Kirimasandaha, Magaru Naradana Kanwa, Vinod Munasinghe Matidapata.
Most venerable members of the Mahasangha, members of the Bhikshuni Sasana, Honorable Minister, Taraka Balasuriya, Your Excellencies, and other foreign delegates, members of the public, the Honorable Prime Minister asked me to deliver this message. He was inordinately delayed due to, as was mentioned, due to a very tight schedule. And it was at the last minute he telephoned me and asked me to deliver this message. I believe he gave me this great honor because I happen to be the great-grandson of Anagarika Dharmapala, and my father, the late Anil Munasinghe, was president of the Mahabodhi Society. So I believe it is to do that honor to this gathering that he asked me to deliver this message. Theravada Buddhism is the greatest gift we can bequeath to the world. The contribution of the monks who are engaged in this mission, locally and internationally, make a significant contribution. In realization of the value of the task, the establishment of the Union of the Sri Lankan Monks in Europe is a great religious task done through the unity of Sri Lankan monks in European countries. It is a timely requirement for the Bhikkhu Association to focus on establishing temples and Dharma propagation centers in 11 European countries and preparing a religious and common social program under a framework for the propagation and perpetuation of the same Buddhist order in the Western world. It is appreciated to bequeath the knowledge of veteran bhikkhu to the young monks who have many decades of experience in the missionary service in Europe. With the aim of achieving these objectives, I would like to extend my sincere greetings to the representatives of the local and foreign governments to inform the ambassadors and personnel representing Buddhist countries about the current role of this Buddhist organization for world peace. මෙහි සිංහල පරිවර්තනයක්ද තියෙනවා. There is a Sinhala translation which I will read. අපට ලොවට දිය හැකි උතුම්ම දායාදය තේරවාදී බුද්ධාගමයි. එකී මෙහෙවර පෙරදැරිව විදෙස් ධර්මදූත මෙහෙවරෙහි යෙදී සිටින භික්ෂූන් වහන්සේගේ සංඝ සාමශ්‍රිය ඉතා වටි. එම වටිනාකම අවබෝධ කොට ගනිමින් යුරෝපීය රටවල ශ්‍රී ලාංකීය භික්ෂූන් වහන්සේගේ එකමුතුවෙන් යුරෝපයේ ශ්‍රී ලාංකික භික්ෂු සංගමය සිදු කරනුයේ මහත් ශාසනික කර්තව්‍යකි. යුරෝපයට අයත් රටවල් 11ක විහාරස්ථාන ධර්ම ප්‍රචාරක මධ්‍යස්ථාන ආදිය පිහිටුවීමෙන් බටහිර ලෝකයේ තුල සම්බුද්ධ ශාසනයේ ව්‍යාපෘතිය හා චිරස්ථිතයයි. තිතේ උදෙසා රාමුවක් යටතේ ශාසනික හා සමාජීය පොදු වැඩපිළිවෙලක් සකස් කිරීමට භික්ෂු සංගමයේ අවධානය යොමු වී ඉතා කාලෝචිතය. එමගින් දශක ගණනාවක් යුරෝපයේ ධර්මදූත සේවාවේ යෙදී සිටින අත්දැකීම් බහුල වියත් යතිවරයාණන් වහන්සේගේ දැනුව තරුණ භික්ෂූන් වහන්සේ වෙත ලබා දීම අගනේය. මෙම පරමාර්ථ සාක්ෂාත් කර ගැනීමේ අරමුණින් ලෝක සාමය උදෙසා මහ සංඝරුවනේ වත්මන් කාර්යභාරය පිළිබඳව බෞද්ධ රටවල් නියෝජනය කරන තානාපතිවරුන් ඇතුළු පිරිස් දැනුම්පත් කිරීම දෙස් විදෙස් රාජ්‍ය නියෝජිත හමුවට වැතිබර සුබ පැතුම් එක් කරමි. දිනේෂ් ගුණවර්ධන පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රී අග්‍රාමාත්‍ය ශ්‍රී ලංකා ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී සමාජවාදී ජනරජය. බොහොම ස්තුතියි.
මීළඟට අපි සූදානම් වන්නේ තවත් සංස්කෘතිකමය අංගයක් ඔබට ඉදිරිපත් කිරීමටයි. මෙම රංගනය අපි ආරම්භ. Up next, a social cultural dance item is to be performed at this place.
Well, according to the agenda up next, we are here to take a brief understanding of the
Buddhism that is existing in the Europe right now. So let's watch a video clip in this regard. යුරෝපයේ මේ වකවානුවේ පවතිනා වූ බුදුදහමේ තත්ත්වය පිළිබඳව යමක් දැන ගැනීම සඳහා අපි මේ කෙටි වාර්තා චිත්‍රපටය නරඹමු.
The current situation of the Buddhism in Europe and its history. After attaining Buddhahood, the Buddha advised the first group of his disciples to share the internal comfort they gained with those who are willing to benefit. It seems that nuns and monks have been acknowledging this for more than 1,000 years now. In the Buddhist history, the Emperor Ashoka was the first person to send the mission to overseas countries. After that, Buddhism was exchanged on some continents or countries. Reaching the Buddhism to Europe is not an accidentally thing. Around 100 BC, Buddhism was practiced well in Greece. There was a great discussion between King Milinda Menander and Arahant Nagasena, so we can go through the Milinda Panha as a masterpiece. The Buddhism was spread in Europe in two ways. Buddhist scholars in Asian Buddhist countries went to the Europe and spread the teaching of Buddha. And also, Europeans came to the Asia with the idea of achieving various things. Some of them got a chance of obtaining of sound knowledge of the Buddhist philosophy. 10th century Johannes de Palmo, the Italian priester, visited the Mongolia and handed over the report to Italian government about Buddhism. The same time, well-known explorer Marco Polo also mentioned the information about the Buddhism to people after toured few Buddhist countries. To German linguists, August Wilhelm Schlegel and Friedrich Schlegel came to India to translate few Buddhist books from Sanskrit to German. In the history of Sri Lanka, We can see time in time Buddhist mission had toured and gave the corporation to develop the doctrine and culture of the Buddha. As the example, Bhikkhuni Duasara, the Buddhist nun carried away Bhikkhuni high ordination to China in 5th century. The era of Polonnaruwa also changes the Buddhist mission with Asian Buddhist countries like Burma, Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, etc. We pay the greatest respect to the philosophers in Europe, such as Arthur Schopenhauer, Friedrich Nietzsche, Immanuel Kant, etc. And also scholars as like Dr. Paul Dock, Van Nanaponika, Van Nanathaloka, Vinayakama. And on due to their great service Europeans came to know what the Buddhism is. We mentioned a few of them. Reason Apicanagarika Dharmapala's name was known as the prominent preacher. He rendered a massive service to emerge the Buddhism and Buddhist culture by starting Mahabodhi society, as well as he was a well-known preacher and he limelighted in the Europe and USA. Among his great service, he could put up the London Vihara in the UK in 1926, as well as Mr. Asoka Weeraratna, also important name in the Buddhist mission. Under his leadership, first Buddhist delegation was sent to Das Buddhist House or Berlin Buddhist Vihara in Berlin in 1957. We don't forget such scholar monks like Van Pelling Vajrayana, Professor Hamalawa Sadatissa, Van Narada Drive, Walpola Rahula, Van Balangoda Ananda Maitreya to propagate and establish the Buddhism. By now, beside Great Britain, there are a lot of Sri Lankan Buddhist temples in Italy, more than 25. In France, there are 5 Buddhist centers, German and Switzerland, each. Countries has for Buddhist centers. In Sweden has 3, Austria, Denmark, Greece, Cyprus, Norway, Finland, Netherlands, and Romania. Each country has only 1 Buddhist centers up to this moment. In recent decades, Buddhism has been steadily growing in popularity in Europe, with many countries embracing its teachings and practices, the interest in mindfulness, meditation, and also the Eastern philosophy has contributed to the spread of Buddhism across the continent. Scholars engage in active research, and practitioners explore meditation, philosophy, and ethics today. Buddhism's presence in Europe reflects a rich tapestry of cultural exchange and spiritual exploration. The venerable monks who live in the Buddhist centers this country perform the religious and social activities to the people of that country, and especially Sri Lankans and Asian Buddhists. Most of the Buddhist monk pays attention about their motherland to render yeoman service. Several years ago, we could establish the organization Buddhist Monk of Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan Bhikkhu Association in Europe. We got a great opportunity to hold the first conference 2023 in Vienna, in Austria, successfully. We, Sri Lankan Buddhist monks who are in Europe, express heartfelt gratitude to the people of those European countries for generously providing the facilities needed to carry out our shared initiatives. May all beings be peaceful and happy.
Gradually, more and more knowledge, which really we garnered at this occasion, depicts the situation of Buddhism across the globe and the responsibility of the Sri Lankan citizens, particularly the Mahasangha, and who are really playing a very important role in this regard. Ladies and gentlemen, up next, we are here to invite Professor Asanka Tilakaratna to talk on the very important topic, that is, for the happiness of many, role of Sri Lankan Buddhist monks outside Sri Lanka. Sri Lankaven paribahirava videsha ratawal wala sitinna වූ ගරුතර මහා සංඝරත්නයේ වගකීම පිළිබඳව කතා කිරීමටත් ඔවුන් ලෝවැසි ජනතාවට සියලු දෙනාටම සතුටු විය හැකි මේ සාරධර්ම පිළිබඳව කටයුතු කළ යුතු ආකාරය පිළිබඳව ඔබට දේශනයක් ඉදිරිපත් කිරීමට අපි ආරාධනා කරනවා මහාචාර්ය අසංක තිලකරත්න මැතිණුන්ට.
The Venerable members of the Mahasangha, both Bhikkhu and Bhikkhuni Mahasangha, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I wish very good evening to everybody. Also, I am very glad that at least there are two diplomatic dignitaries to listen to my talk, because this is basically meant for them. Anyhow, let me read my speech. The theme for my presentation is for the happiness of many, role of Sri Lankan Buddhist monks outside Sri Lanka. At the beginning, I would like to thank Venerable Vijayarajapura Silavangsa Thera, who invited me to deliver this speech, and also Sri Lanka Bhikkhu Association in Europe.
It is recorded in Buddhist literature that the Buddha addressed his first 60 monastic disciples who had achieved their ultimate religious goal, namely realizing nirvana by cleansing their minds of defilements, and asked them to go in different routes, spreading the message of the Dhamma for the welfare of many and for the happiness of many. Expressed in two well-known Pali terms, Bahujana Hitaya, Bahujana Sukhaya. Ever since the teaching of the Buddha, word of the Buddha to the world has remained a priority of Buddhist monks, in addition, of course, to the practice of their own inner development. These noble men and women in yellow robes assembled here, and others who are not present here, belong to that ancient tradition of Buddhist monks, the monastic followers of the Buddha, who dedicated their lives for the welfare of the world. Whether they are fully liberated or not, like those 60 monks, they are early counterparts. But one thing is clear, these monks and also nuns who trace their origin to that ancient tradition are far more advanced than ordinary folks in their morality, serenity, and wisdom, Sila Samadhi Panya. This afternoon, I have been asked to brief you on what the Sri Lankan Buddhist monks are doing outside their place of birth. In particular, in countries Your Excellencies represent. If I may trace briefly the recent history of missionary activities of Sri Lankan Buddhist monks, it is Anagarika Dharmapala, who became a monk only later towards the end of his life, who reintroduced Theravada Buddhism to India by establishing Mahabodhi Society towards the end of the 19th century. And he took with him a group of young Buddhist monks to be trained as missionaries. In 1930s, he established in England what is known today as London Buddhist Vihara, and sent some Buddhist monks to serve there, initiating the long tradition of Sri Lankan Buddhist monks in the UK. The Buddhist Vihara in Berlin, Germany, inaugurated by Paul Dahlke, a German Buddhist scholar, was manned by Buddhist monks from Sri Lanka, then Ceylon. The first ever Theravada Buddhist monastery in North America, Washington Buddhist Vihara, was established under the guidance of Venerable Madhya Panyasiya Mahanayaka Thera in 1964. When the centers of Sri Lanka Buddhism were at a nascent state, the missionary work of Sri Lankan Buddhist monks was represented by some eminent monks such as Venerable Narada, Venerable Piyadasi, both from Vajrarame, Colombo. Their intermittent presence in Europe and USA nevertheless helped arouse and sustain the interest in Buddhism in these regions, and the Sri Lankan Buddhist centers started increasing in numbers. Today, in Europe alone, there are about 120 Sri Lankan Buddhist monks in about 45 Theravada monasteries, in addition to a considerable number of monks and monasteries in the UK and in the USA. Why and how did this considerable expansion take place? It has been the practice for the last several decades that due to growing globalizing trends and their influence on people of traditional Asian countries, they moved away from their native places to new places for economic, educational, and professional opportunities. Although these people left their native place, physically, they did take their culture and religion along with them. And that is how what is sometimes called baggage Buddhism is born. This is common not only for Buddhists in Sri Lanka, but also for the other Buddhist communities and also for all Asian religious communities in general. As far as the Sri Lankan Buddhists are concerned, once they themselves get settled down in new soils, they invited their local monks to come and live with them. Today, the presence of Sri Lankan Buddhist monks in major cities across Europe, USA, Canada, New Zealand, South America, and Russia is not something exotic. The swans have come to the lake, and they are there for good. In their new habitats, I see the role of Sri Lankan Buddhist monks as twofold. One is catering to the needs of their own people from Sri Lanka, at times to the other Buddhist communities from East and Southeast Asian countries. And the other is sharing their religion with the people of their host countries. The first task of looking after the needs of their own diaspora communities covers two vital aspects of human life, namely one's inner religious needs and one's cultural needs. In the Sri Lankan Theravada tradition, it is taken as a duty of the Buddhist monk to guide and support the so-called lay people in their religious activities, functions, and performances, which include, but not limited to, number one, teaching Dhamma by means of preaching, conducting Dhamma classes at their monasteries, and by publishing newsletters, books, and periodicals, etc. Number two, attending to the ritualistic religious needs associated with such instances as birth of a child, marriage, and in particular funerals, and after funeral religious rites, such as accepting dana, offerings made for the sake of departed ones. Number three, guiding the lay people in the practice of meditation. Number four, helping lay people to celebrate the traditionally important religious ceremonies, such as the day of offering robes for the rainy season, and to commemorate such important days in the Buddhist calendar as Vesak, the Buddha Day, etc. Number five, providing psychological counseling to those who need guidance and support in difficult situations. Number six, and in some cases, providing facilities for people to seek help from the pantheon of Buddhist gods. The other task is the cultural aspect of life of the lay people, which include festivities, rites and rituals associated with Sinhala New Year Day, falling in the month of April, providing facilities at the temple for cultural activities such as traditional dancing and singing, teaching Sinhala language to children, teaching Pali language to those who wish to read the original Buddhist text, and conducting sessions for Dhamma discussions. Looking after the religious and cultural needs of one's own people may appear at first sight something of limited significance, but this phenomenon needs to be viewed from a broader perspective. Sri Lankan monks today contribute to the overall well-being and integrity of the larger society when they look after the religious, emotional, intellectual, and cultural needs of their own people. Further, they contribute to the peace and harmony of the host society at large by guiding their own groups in morally acceptable behavior, and creating, by doing so, a community of people with cultural and emotional integrity. In addition to this role involving their own communities, Sri Lankan Buddhist monks contribute to the well-being of their host societies according to their capacity of varying degrees. In this context, it is useful to know that the way of thinking and the behavior of Theravada Buddhist monks toward the religions of their host countries. The Buddha himself was born and lived in a society with many religions and ideologies. The ancient Indian society he lived in and taught was predominantly Brahmanic or Hindu, and there are a good number of other religious traditions grouped under the name Shramana, including that of his own. There are many direct and indirect references in the Buddhist literature on what the Buddha taught on other religious traditions and how the Buddha treated his contemporary religious traditions. According to such records, the Buddha visited the monasteries of other religions and had friendly discussions with them on religious and philosophical matters. Although the Buddha did not believe that the other religious traditions were equally true or equally valid as his own, he did accept the right of all religious traditions to exist, hold their views and teach their views without, of course, doing harm to the freedom of thought of the listeners. The Buddha's view in this regard are well recorded in the well-known Kalama Sutta, Discourse to the Kalamas, according to which one should accept any view on right and wrong only when one is personally convinced of the goodness of it, and not because any other reason of religious authority or tradition. As any religious teacher, the Buddha too was keen to communicate his teaching to as many people as possible. The difference in his practice, however, was that he resorted only to rational and intellectual arguments to convince his listeners. On the contrary, today we hear about what is called unethical conversion, resorted to by some religious groups to convert people belonging to other religions. This is something that is unheard of Sri Lankan Theravada monks or any other Buddhist monks for that matter, living in these countries. In other words, there are not any aggressive conversion programs run by Sri Lankan Buddhist monks anywhere in the world. In their practice of reaching out to the followers of other religions, they can be described as true followers of the Buddha. These monks accept invitations for teaching, preaching and discussions from local communities and groups, at times even from centers of other religions including churches. Although this is not something new, what I hear is that more recently it has become increasingly common. These invitations are generally to teach or introduce Buddhism or specifically for guidance in meditation, mindfulness meditation in particular. As community centers, Sri Lankan Buddhist monasteries and their activities are open to all, both Sri Lankan communities and local people who in most cases are not even Buddhist in organizational sense. Furthermore, I learned that by now more and more Sri Lankan Buddhist monks strive to learn languages of the host countries so that they can communicate with the local people more efficiently and learn subjects such as psychology, psychological counseling, and the like, which have direct bearing on their work. These are good indications that the Sri Lankan Buddhist monasteries and their incumbents have started to be locally conscious increasingly. In this context, as we witnessed during this program abundantly, I must also mention that these monks who live outside Sri Lanka have not forgotten their own native country, their fellow monks, monasteries, and local people. They extend material support, as we witness today, whenever they can to Sri Lankan Buddhists, in particular during these difficult times. Buddhism is still an emerging religion in the West, in spite of the fact that it has been known to the West mainly as an intellectual tradition for nearly two centuries now. The reality today is that Buddhism has graduated from that phase of exclusively intellectual and academic study, found in universities or among the small groups of elite of the society. It is fast becoming a local religion in their new habitats, moving beyond being a means of satisfying intellectual curiosity of the learned, but becoming a living tradition leading to inner happiness and stability of ordinary people. What is really needed from the host societies is understanding, tolerance, and support much more than material assistance. I earnestly hope and wish that this gathering will serve as a fresh step in the direction of enhanced knowledge, understanding and friendship between Sri Lankan Buddhist monks and their host societies. I thank you very much.
අපි මතක් කළ යුතු යමක් තිබෙනවා. සම්මාන සමාජිකත්වය සඳහා භික්ෂුන් වහන්සේලා 5 නමක් තෝරාගෙන තිබුණද මේ අවස්ථාවේහි වැඩ සිටින්නේ ගරු කොටපළ මංගල හිමියන් පමණි. ඒ පණිවිඩයත් හිතේ තබාගෙන අපි ආරාධනා කරමු ඉතාමත් ගෞරවයෙන් නාග පිරිවෙන විහාරාධිපති යුරෝපා මහද්වීපයේ ධර්ම දූත සංඝනායක යුරෝපයේ භික්ෂු සංගමයේ ගරු සභාපති ආචාර්ය විජය රාජපුර සීලවංශ නායක ස්වාමීන්ද්‍රයන් වහන්සේට එම සම්මානනීය සමාජිකත්වය ලබා දීම සඳහා එම සමාජිකත්වය හිමි නම් සහිත සම්මානලාභීන්ගේ නම් සහිත විස්තර මේ ස්ථානයේ පැමිණීම සඳහා යුරෝපයේ ශ්‍රී ලාංකික භික්ෂු සංගමයේ ගරු භාණ්ඩාගාරික ශාස්ත්‍රපති වංගිය කුඹුරේ ඥාන විමල හිමිපාණන්ට අපි තාමත් ගෞරවයෙන් ආරාධනා කර සිටිනවා. අපි ප්‍රථමයෙන්ම සම්මානීය සමාජිකත්වයේ පිරිනමන ලබන්නේ හුණුපිටියේ ගංගාරාම අධිකාරී කිරින්දේ අස්සජිදි ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ. ඒ වගේම අපි පිරිනමනවා කැලණිය පඤ්ඤානන්ද ධර්ම ආයතනාධිපති ශ්‍රී විජේසේකර පරිවේදනාධිපති කොටපොළ මංගල ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේට. මීළඟට අපි ආරාධනා කරනවා සාන්තරෝහණ රණවක ඔබට මේ සමාජිකත්වය ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා. Giving away of honorary membership for the Sri Lanka Bhikkhu Association in Sri Lanka, in Europe, is taking place during the second important gathering over here. 3 personalities have been granted the membership. Up next, we are here to invite to deliver the vote of thanks the chief patron of European Buddhist Society, founder of Samadhi Buddhist Cultural Center, Sweden, Executive Member of Sri Lankan Bhikkhu Association in Europe, Venerable Udagama Narada Nayaka Thera. මෙම සභාවේ ස්තුති කතාව පැවැත්වීම සඳහා අපි තාමත් ගෞරවයෙන් ආරාධනා කර සිටිනවා යුරෝපයේ ප්‍රධාන සංඝනායක ස්වීඩන් සමාධි බෞද්ධ සංස්කෘතික මධ්‍යස්ථානාධිපති යුරෝපයේ ශ්‍රී ලාංකික භික්ෂු සංගමයේ ගරු විධායක සභික පූජ්‍ය උඩගම නාරද නායක ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ.
Venerable Mahasangha, Chairman of the organization, Dr. Vijayarajapura Silavansa Nayaka Thero, Secretary Katuvana Siddhartha Thero, Treasurer Wangiya Kumbure Gnana Vimala Thero, Chief Guest, Your Excellencies, Honorable Ambassadors, Keynote Speaker Professor Asanga Tilakaratna, guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I stand before you today with a heart brimming with gratitude and humility as we bring the curtain down on the second Diplomatic Buddhist Convention organized by the Sri Lankan Bhikkhu Association in Europe. The momentous occasion has been graced by the presence of eminent personalities who have added unparalleled value to this gathering, and it is my privilege to extend heartfelt thanks to every one of you. Especially thankful to behalf of Honorable Prime Minister Message and Minister Vijaydas Liyanarachchi speech, as well as Taraka Balasurya speech too. The special note of gratitude is extended to Minister and ambassadors who have taken time from their busy schedule to join us today. Your presence has not only elevated the stature of this event, but also reaffirmed the importance of international collaboration in promoting peace and understanding. I extend heartfelt thanks to the Chairman, Secretary, and the Treasurer of the Sri Lankan Bhikkhu Association in Europe for their tireless efforts in organizing this convention. Your dedication and hard work have borne fruit, creating a platform for meaningful dialogue and exchange of our idea. Special thanks must go to Venerable Dr. Kirinde Assaji, the second incumbent to the Gangarama Temple in Colombo, and Dr. Ratmale Punyaratana Thero, who generously sponsor for the many activities in organizing event. Bhutawate Saranankara Nayaka Thero in Malaysia, who made the introductory speech of today event, explaining the aim and objective of the organization, is also remembered with many thanks. Our deepest gratitude goes to our keynote speaker, Professor Asanga Tilakaratne, whose insightful address has enlightened and inspired us all. Your wisdom has added a scholarly dimension to our discussion, and we are truly privileged to have had you with us. We also extend our thanks to the talented dancing group whose platforms added the cultural vibrancy to our gathering. To the media representatives covering this event, we appreciate your role in disseminating the insight and outcome of this convention for a wider audience. Your support in highlighting the importance of diplomatic initiatives is invaluable. Last but not least, I would like to express our gratitude to all the guests who have joined us today. Our presence has made this convention a truly international and diverse gathering. In conclusion, as we reflect of the enriching discussion and exchange of the idea that we taken place during this convention, let us carry on a spirit of collaboration and understanding forward. May the born folk here contribute to the promotion of peace, tolerance, and unity across borders. Thank you, and may we continue to walk the path of enlightenment and diplomacy hand in hand. Thank you very much.
Venerable Mahasangha and the dignitaries, including the ambassador of the Austria, Sri Lanka. It was really a great, memorable, important program in terms of the second diplomatic Buddhist convention of the Sri Lanka Bhikkhu Association in Europe. For the first time, this has taken place in Sri Lanka. With all the understanding of the Sri Lankan Bhikkhu Association's operation in Sri Lanka and across global platforms and regions, territories, we are here to commit ourselves more and more, understanding that only 11 countries we have been already tapped and working on. And it is our duty and our aim to expand the parameters of this operation through the good work of Sri Lanka Bhikkhu Association in Europe. So once again, this memorable, important, the second diplomatic Buddhist convention of the Sri Lanka Bhikkhu Association Sri Lanka, which successfully concludes at this occasion in this format. I extend all my heartfelt thanks to each and every personalities who are still remaining at this occasion. In the meantime, a reminder on the VIP personalities to take part in the refreshment activity. Please make your way to the special arrangement made location over here. And in the meantime, the rest of the personalities can have their refreshments just outside these premises. And in the meantime, a reminder on the group photograph. Those who are really need to be the part and parcel of the group photograph, please make your way in front of this particular arrangement over here to take part in the group photograph. යුරෝපයේ ශ්‍රී ලාංකික භික්ෂු සංගමයේ දෙවැනි සැසිවාරය. අපදේශයේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට පැවැත් වූ මෙම සැසිවාරය දැනට රටවල් 11ක් සමග ඉතාමත් සාර්ථකව මෙම කාර්යය සිද්ධ කරමින් සිටින ගරුතර මහා සංඝරත්නය විසින් විශේෂයෙන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ජනරාජ්‍යයේ විදේශ කටයුතු පිළිබඳ අමාත්‍යාංශයේ අනුග්‍රහය සහ සහභාගීත්වයෙන් මේ අයුරින් අද පවත්වනු ලැබුවා. අපගේ අධිෂ්ඨානය අරමුණ සාපේක්ෂාව මෙහි කටයුතු තවදුරටත් පුළුල් අන්දමින් විදේශීය දේශයන්හි කරගෙන යාමටයි. ඒ බලාපොරොත්තුවත් සිතෙහි තබාගෙන ඉතා සාර්ථකව සංවිධානය කොට අවසන් දකින මෙම වැඩසටහනට සහභාගී ඔබ සියලු දෙනාටම අපි ස්තුතිය ප්‍රකාශ කර සිටිනවා. ඒ වගේම අපි මතක් කරනවා මේ පැමිණ සිටින විශේෂ